Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. 4 communities in the Northwest Territories remain under a water advisory tonight, and frustration over the situation is growing. It all started when a chemical byproduct was found in the drinking water. It can form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring material like leaves. But the solution to this problem isn't so simple, and the timeline for when it'll be solved isn't clear. The CBC's Carla Ulrich has been following this story all week. She joins me now with more. Carla, what happened here?
Well, since Monday, a drinking water advisory has been in place for 4 South Slave communities in the NWT. Residents of Hay River, Enterprise, Katlodiche First Nation, and Kakiza were asked to take precautions before drinking the tap water. This came after high levels of chemical byproducts used in the water treatment process were found in the drinking water. The byproducts are called trihalomethanes, or THMs. The town of Hay River says it's working with the Northwest Territories government to bring the levels of THMs down. I spoke with the Hay River Senior Administrative Officer, Glenn Smith. He said the root of the problem is an aging water treatment plant and not a sudden contamination. Smith said because of lower water levels and an increase in organics like algae, dead leaves, and soil runoff, it's more challenging to balance the amounts of chlorine needed. Health officials say they identified rising levels of THMs in Hay River's water over the past year. The NWT Chief Environment Health Officer, Chirag Rohit, says quarterly tests since August 2024 have shown THMs slowly increasing. He says the advisory was issued to keep residents informed and help them reduce their exposure. Even though the risk for short-term contact is very low, there's no word yet on when the levels are expected to come down, and the water advisory remains in place.
Carla, this is affecting a few communities, but I do know there was a meeting in Hay River. So what are people there saying?
So Thursday night, residents in Hay River packed the hall for a public meeting on the drinking water advisory. They say they want faster testing, clearer numbers, and help with the cost of coping. So there were many questions about a new water treatment plant, and Candace Jamieson is Hay River's mayor. She said the new plant has been in the town's capital plan for 10 years with a budget of up to $30 million. She says they have completed a feasibility study, preliminary design, and are shovel ready. Once funding is secured, it should take 3 years to complete, and the meeting ended with a promise from the town to keep the public updated.
What should people then do about their water in the meantime, Carla?
So they should let it sit in a pitcher in the fridge for 24 hours without a cover, or they should use a Brita water filtration system. Public Health says both approaches will remove THMs from the tap water. The NWT Department of Public Health says residents should use filtered or bottled water for food prep.
Okay, thanks for all your work on this, Carla.
Thanks, Megan.
Some ATCO Electric Yukon customers say their power is being cut off even after making payment plan arrangements with the company. 2 women told CBC they thought they'd reached agreements with ATCO Electric Yukon, but they still lost power. One of them, Mercedes Bagley, says she was baking bread with her 6 children at home in Marsh Lake when the electricity suddenly shut off. She says she arranged to pay $250 a month until her student funding came through, and that she's been making the payments. So she was shocked when her power was cut. Bagley says ATCO acknowledged it made a mistake and turned her power back on. She says she wishes her agreement that was made over the phone could have been in writing, and ATCO is open to that idea.
But our experience has been these payment arrangements really are very customer by customer specific, right? Some can pay by the week or by the month or bi-monthly, different amounts varying. So yeah, I would say that our front office is very flexible to try and meet the customer where they need to be met. But to put it in writing would be, a good another step we'll have to look into.
Massey says it only disconnects service as a last resort, and that customers can request written payment plans to help them keep up with bills. For the last 3 years, residents of Whitehorse's Whistlebend neighborhood have been petitioning the city for traffic calming measures, and so far, no action from the city. Traffic is especially heavy on a residential street that's only 250 meters long. The CBC's Isabella Khaleesi went there to check it out.
Eugene Avenue is an offshoot from a roundabout in Yukon's fastest growing neighborhood with a population of 4,300 people called Whistlebend. It's the second largest community in the Yukon, and last year the city of Whitehorse commissioned a traffic calming report for the street, and it found over 1,000 vehicles per weekday and more than 800 on the weekend use this narrow 250-meter long residential street. Traffic is a mix of residents from adjoining neighborhood using it as a shortcut and construction crews going to nearby sites. The amount of noise and fast cars has affected residents like Brenda Morrison, who has allocated her lot for a housing lottery and has been living with this for the last 3 years.
When you look at it on the map, it looks like a small residential street. So how could we ever know that this would happen when we bought our homes? They're built on them. So we feel like we've kind of been cheated out of quality of life for some time.
Over the 2025 summer, a barricade was put up at the end of the street, stopping traffic. Morrison says her and her neighbors were thrilled. People could ride their bikes and not fear getting clipped by a speeding vehicle. But the barricade was taken down, leaving Morrison confused on why there's no permanent changes being implemented.
I don't know what it takes. We followed all the protocols. I went to town hall. I went to this. I went to that. I did this. Like, I have so much, I've completed so much work on this, you know, and I've always followed the protocols, and it's just, I don't know what we're doing wrong.
The city of Whitehorse says the barricade was a pilot project and took it away for snow removal purposes so they could analyze traffic data.
A common approach with making permanent changes to existing road infrastructure is to test things out to see how they perform in real life. And oftentimes that can be for 1 to 3 years before we have enough data to invest in sort of a major infrastructure change.
So residents have to sit idly by and wait until next year to hear any updates. Isabella Khaleesi, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Nunavut RCMP say they believe fentanyl is present in seized drugs that the government is calling pink cocaine. The Department of Health says there have been reports of such drugs in communities, including Cambridge Bay. The drugs may look like pink or brightly colored powders or pills, according to the department. Mounties say the seized substance will be analyzed further to confirm if fentanyl is present. The Iqaluit RCMP are investigating a fire at a wooden shelter near a beach in the city. It happened Thursday night near the Angkalak building. The city of Iqaluit says people were living in the structure at the time and that no injuries were reported. They say they don't yet know the cause of the fire. The community of Pangnaktu Nunavut now knows who its next MLA will be. Johnny Mike has won a judicial recount in the riding. He'll represent the community in the 7th Legislative Assembly. Mike won the recount by 4 votes. This will be Mike's second term in office. He was Pangnaktu's MLA in the 4th Legislative Assembly from 2013 to 2017. 2 other ridings in Nunavut faced recounts. The outcome in Kutiktuk has yet to be determined, and voters in Agu will be heading back to the polls as a recount there finished in a tie. Residents of Nunavut have wound back the clock for the last time. The legal representative for Inuit in the region says it'll stay on permanent daylight saving time starting next year, but the rest of Quebec will not. Samuel Watt has that story.
As the saying goes, you spring forward an hour in March and you fall back an hour in November. But Nunavut will soon be able to forget about all that. Once next year's daylight saving kicks in, the region will stay in that time year-round. It follows a survey earlier this year by Makavik, which questioned the relevance of the biannual time change in the region.
For once, could we decide when we can get up and do about our day?
Jeannie Louisa Tumasi senses a desire among some Nunavut to have control of their time and not be dictated by a Western system. But she worries about the logistical nightmares like when travelling.
The airline has to follow the Eastern time zone. For us who don't follow the fallback time zone, do we stay on the same time? And
There are other communities in Canada who don't follow the same time zone as the rest of the province or territory. Coral Harbour and Nunavut is among them. Mayor Patrick Netzer says the logistical issues are no big deal if you plan ahead.
The rest of the world has changed their time, and let them do it. Let them do what they want to do. We'll do what we want to do. And
Same case in Creston, BC, where Mayor Arnold DeBoon says it's the rest of Canada which needs to catch up.
And now we're sitting kind of waiting to see what the rest of the country is going to do with daylight savings time, because there is a movement to abolish it.
But perhaps Nunavut won't be the odd ones out for long. Last year, Quebec's Justice Ministry asked Quebecers if they wanted to abolish time changes. 91% of survey respondents said yes. The ministry says it's still reviewing those findings, so only time will tell what the time is there. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Yellowknife.
There will be no obstetrics and no surgery at the hospital in Nunavut, Northwest Territories all weekend. The Northwest Territories Health and Social Services Authority announced the temporary reduction. It says women who are 37 weeks or more into their pregnancy will be transferred to Yellowknife's Stanton Territorial Hospital, along with anyone needing emergency surgery. The Nunavut Emergency Department is still functioning and can treat anyone who goes into labor or needs assessment. In Nunavut, residents of Sanikiluaq will soon have a new community space. Organizers say it'll be a place to heal, learn, and have fun. The Ayuinata Wellness Project is led by the Ubluviak Society, a nonprofit based in Sanikiluaq. They've turned 5 trailers into a new space. The space will include a gaming lounge, a small music studio, and a cultural space for elders. The Ubluviak Society says the project began with a simple observation.
I started going to Sanikiluaq from 2021. I realized that there was nothing there. No program goes on. You see people going around, winding around, going around. And also, I did my research by talking to people, and they told me what they need.
Renovations faced some delays, but the center is expected to open next week. The Ubluviak Society plans to build a bigger facility in the future. Saturday is Indigenous Veterans Day in Canada, and events will be held across the country. The CBC's Colin Gallant shows us how some artists in Edmonton are crafting unique tributes.
Yeah, labor of love.
Stitch after stitch, Kim Brothers creates another bright red beaded poppy. Ahead of National Aboriginal Veterans Day, this art studio is showcasing unique poppies to support the cause. They serve as a symbol to recognize all veterans who served and lost their lives in the military.
Especially for like the Aboriginal ones, you know, to have a beaded poppy to represent all of that, I think is pretty important.
About 30 artists helped create the poppies sold at this store, with proceeds to the Aboriginal Veterans Fund. Each piece taking precision and time.
For someone like me who's been beading for years, 3 hours. For somebody brand new, it could be 3 days.
The studio has already sold hundreds in recent weeks, as customers choose a poppy they can wear year after year.
They love it. They absolutely love it. And then because there's, you know, so many artists doing it, we have lots of like variety in the style. So lots of options, even though it's still a poppy.
Some artists spend many months making poppies for this time of year. Colin Gallant, CBC News, Calgary.
The drama at an ostrich farm in British Columbia is over. Marksmen have shot dead about 300 birds. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered the cull last year after detecting some cases of avian flu in the flock. It sparked international outrage. Caroline Bargut is on the scene.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency said that after consulting with experts experienced in managing ostrich disease outbreaks, it determined that the most appropriate and humane way to cull the birds would be to use professional marksmen. Now, some of our colleagues at Radio Canada were at the ostrich farm last night at around 6:10 p.m. and they said that they heard about 5 rounds of 12 shots in each of those rounds. One of the supporters was also saying he was here until midnight and he heard more than 100 shots. And now we know for sure that the CFIA decided to kill the birds by shooting them. This farm and these ostriches have garnered international attention. There have been hundreds of people that have been coming to the British Columbia farm, but people all over the world have had interest in them. The Trump administration have commented about the birds, and even some of the members have offered to take the birds back to America. And today, Elizabeth May, Green Party leader Elizabeth May, talked about the birds before she knew the cull had happened.
This is clearly a case where I think public concern and the faith in our institutions would have been better met if CFIA had agreed to retesting the animals. There's been a long time since there was any evidence of bird flu in that encampment.
And that is what the supporters at this farm have been saying all along for the past 11 months, is they really wanted scientists to study these birds, to see if they had immunity to avian flu. But a virologist that we spoke to said that it's very difficult to test birds, especially because they're 7 feet tall and could potentially disembowel a person if they kicked them. She said that it would take several test samples in order to figure out if there was avian flu in the bird, and then even still it could be missed because it could be in a tissue that wasn't tested. And she says that is why the CFIA decides to cull the animals. The family and the owners of this farm, as well as the supporters, say they want the CFIA to change its policy so that animals will be spared and not be culled when there's a case of avian flu. Caroline Bargood, CBC News, Edgewood, British Columbia.
Canada's labour market delivered a bit of an economic surprise in October. According to the latest numbers from Statistics Canada, job growth exceeded expectations and unemployment dropped. The CBC's Jennifer Lagrassa has the details.
Canada actually gained more jobs than expected. For the second month in a row, job numbers are up. Now, I will say job numbers can be quite volatile. So when you're looking at these, economists warn that taken alone, they don't always paint the most accurate picture. But let's dive into the numbers. So in October, Stats Canada says there was an increase of 67,000 jobs. Many of these jobs are part-time roles, and many were in Ontario. Another positive key measure here, unemployment rate dipped. It's now sitting at 6.9%. That's from 7.1%. One economist says that while this is trending in the right direction, it's still not great.
It is still quite high relative to where we'd like to see it. It still indicates that there's slack in the labor market. We wouldn't characterize it as good. It's just better than we thought it would have been.
He expects that the unemployment rate will gradually fall next year as things maybe turn a corner, specifically with the trade war with the United States. Here in southwestern Ontario, Windsor, Canada's automotive city, has been hard hit by that trade tension. High unemployment is what it's seen. In June, that was at 11.2%. That has now fallen to 9.6%. Here's Windsor's mayor on this.
The things we can control, we're doing really, really well. But I know it's hard because it's hard for families when they go to the grocery store and they see prices going up because of the trade war.
Now, between September and October, the Canadian economy gained more than 125,000 jobs, and those have offset the losses we saw in the summer. The sectors where we saw this growth are wholesale and retail trade, as well as transportation and warehousing. There was also a small increase in manufacturing jobs, and that comes after we saw huge growth in that sector in September. Because of how volatile job numbers are, it's still too early to say whether they are a sign of some stability. But many economists say that following this report, the Bank of Canada will likely hold the interest rate steady at its next meeting in December. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
A dramatic week is coming to a close on Parliament Hill. The Liberal government has survived another confidence vote on Friday as Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives struggle to stay united. Kate McKenna has the latest from Ottawa.
Pour 30 times, nays contre 307, 307.
The Carney Liberals survived a second confidence vote on budget amendments in 2 days, meaning no election for now. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre weren't even there.
The Prime Minister is actually just a block away right now.
Both were speaking in Toronto, promoting their post-budget messages.
We will also build local infrastructure. That means new hospitals, transit, recreational facilities, arts centers.
Our approach had been to demand an affordable budget so people could afford their lives.
We didn't get that.
In the last election.
But on Parliament Hill, Conservatives sought to turn the page on a rough week.
We're going to stay focused on what matters to Canadians.
One MP, Chris D'Entremont, crossed the floor to the Liberals. Another, Matt Genereux, says he plans to resign his seat.
Mark Carney did not receive a majority mandate from Canadian voters, yet he's trying to cobble together a majority through undemocratic means with backroom deals and pressure tactics.
Before Genereux resigned, sources say he met with the Prime Minister. And when Conservatives feared he too could cross the floor, they pressured him not to. All this hours before his surprise resignation.
It's really disheartening and disappointing to see that he's resigned. And I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked to the Conservatives.
It must have been pretty damn nasty for him to go from being a newly re-elected Conservative MP to I'm not sitting here anymore.
Genereux denies that he was coerced into leaving, saying he wishes Pierre Poilievre the best, but his caucus is set to have 2 fewer members than it did at the beginning of the week. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
The 2026 Grammy nominations have been revealed. Kendrick Lamar, Bad Bunny, and Lady Gaga are leading the pack in nominations. And there's also a strong showing by some of Canada's biggest artists, including pop icon Justin Bieber and Tate McRae. Magda Gebrselassie has those details.
Hey, Roman numeral 7, babe, drop it like it's hot.
You've got the Grammys showing love to Kendrick, K-pop, and some Canadians. After taking home lots of hardware earlier this year, Kendrick Lamar takes the top spot for nominations with 9, including Album of the Year, and this track, Luther, is up for Record and Song of the Year. In the second spot for most nominations, you have Lady Gaga with her album Mayhem and some of its tracks getting some recognition. You also have Bad Bunny, Sabrina Carpenter, Leon Thomas getting a lot of nominations as well. Now turning to a specific genre, K-pop. The movie K-pop Demon Hunters was a massive hit this summer, and so is the music from the fictional band. The song Golden has received several nominations, including Song of the Year.
This is a huge moment for K-pop, for sure. And the only place that they were forecasted to get a nomination for Golden that they didn't was Record of the Year, where they would have made history being the first K-pop group to get in that category.
Sticking with the genre, Rosé, who's from the K-pop girl group Blackpink, is also a hit as a solo artist. This track with Bruno Mars got her some nominations. Canadians getting a lot of love too, including Justin Bieber, who is back with his Swag album. He's got 4 nominations. Drake has 1 nomination for Best Melodic Rap Performance for the song Somebody Loves Me with Party Next Door. And Tate McRae has her first Grammy nominations. Now the wait is on to see who will take home the hardware. The Grammys show airs on Sunday, February 1st. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.